Or I'm going to hit another button. All right. Okay. So good to see everybody. All right, guys, I'm going to let you, Zoom is pulling you in, but it's pulling you in slowly. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes before I share my presentation. Hello, hello. I'm Jana Konovalenko. Um, Good morning from Southern California. Hi, Emma. All right, guys. So as Zoom is pulling you in, because it's doing a little bit slowly, two things. I want everybody to mute themselves. It is a meeting style, not a webinar, because I love to see faces, allow for us to be engaged. And number two, if you would like, I would love to get to know you a little bit better. So feel free to use chat. And we should have Q&A, although I don't see it here. Let me know in the chat, where are you calling in from? Emma's from Southern California. Let me know where everybody else is calling in. I am in Nashville, Tennessee. We moved here from California recently, a year and a half ago. So I'm curious to see where you guys are at and what specialty do you practice? I'm an orthodontist. I'm curious what you guys do. All right. As I'm letting everybody, orthodontist from New Jersey. Hi, Brittany. Oh, so fun. All right, guys. So as you are joining, let me know in the chat. I'm going to share my presentation with you. Texas. Colby, I didn't know you were from Texas. How fun. I love that. Okay, I'm going to share my presentation and let's hope that we don't have any technical difficulties. So Cal, so fun. Okay, guys, I'm going to go back into the chat in a minute, but I want to make sure everybody, okay, guys, can you see my screen? Can you see and hear me? Let me check. Where did my chat go? Where did my chat go? Come on, Jana. Okay, you can do this. Let's see. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, you guys can hear me and see me? Thumbs up. Let's see. Let me know. And then I'm going to share my presentation with you. I'm just going to wait for a minute to see if everybody, well, I'm assuming you guys can hear and see me. Okay, let's keep rolling. I gotta be careful with tech. I think maybe somebody let me know. Ah, why is this not opening? We can hear you. Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. All right, guys. So here's what we're talking about today. Team drama. Can anybody relate to this? Yes, and it affects us so much. So I'm going to talk about how not to let it affect, why it happens, what we can do about it. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm teaching this, who am I, and what you can do to develop a stronger team. Because let's be honest, no matter whether you're an associate or a practice owner, we cannot practice dentistry without our team. We just can't. You're not going to be efficient. You need at least somebody answering the phones, right? At a bare minimum. But also, we didn't go to dental school or residency to do sterilization and turn around chairs. We need team. We need a staff. And that staff sometimes could be a pain. So we're going to talk about all of that. So I'm going to teach you for the first half of this hour. I'm going to do my absolute best to finish within an hour. I'll be honest, often I run behind, so I'm really going to try. If you have to hop in after an hour, I completely understand. There is going to be a replay. That's why I'm frantically checking to make sure this is recording. I'm going to share the replay with you, but first part of just so that you kind of know the agenda, what's happening, we're going to talk about your team and the actual practical tools that you can do to have a better team. And at the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit how I work with people and how I can help. Deal? All right, let's keep going. So who is this masterclass for? Women dentists. I specifically work only with women doctors, and I call them dentists. We call ourselves doctors, but whenever you're on the internet, sometimes you have medical doctors come in, and I just want to make sure that we are all identifying ourselves. We are dentists. We call ourselves doctors, but I work specifically with women because let's be honest, we have different problems, different challenges that men do. And so I work specifically with women of all specialties. Now, you are on this call probably one of these four categories. You're either an associate who maybe recently graduated, maybe a couple of years graduated, and you are focused on your associate job. This is what you want to do. This is your goal. You're not thinking about practice ownership or anything like that. A lot of the time, you're in a stage where you're growing a family, right? Maybe you're having children, or you're thinking of having children, or you want to have more children. So the thought of adding a practice on top of it is just daunting. I totally get you. But you work with a team, and you are not the boss. So you need some strategies on how to motivate them, how to have a cohesive team, right? When you don't just say things at a morning huddle and it just feels like you're talking to furniture, right? You're talking to a void. Um, because nobody's listening, right? Like you need to be like, probably the boss is pushing on you to be a better leader. And you're like, I just don't know. Like, I'm not signing their checks. I don't know how to motivate them. I don't know how to get them to do what I need them to do and, have a good attitude. So that definitely, today's class is definitely for you. Today's class is also for you if you're an associate who is strongly considering practice ownership. Maybe you're thinking, okay, like in the next maybe year, or maybe you're starting to look into buying a practice. Um, and you know that, right? Part of running a practice is having a team and all other things that are going to practice ownership. That this class is definitely for you. Or you could be a brand new practice owner. Maybe you are just starting like this month to practice. You're like, oh my gosh, like such a steep learning curve, right? Like so many things going on. The building, if you have a startup or you're buying an existing practice, you are learning insurances, you're learning vendors, you need to start hiring people. You're like, whoa, so much. And maybe on top of it, you're growing your family. Maybe you're pregnant right now or um, planning to have children in the near future and adding a practice. I'm so glad you're here. I will speak exactly or directly to the challenges you are going through, and I'm going to be able to help you as well. Or maybe you're an established practice owner. Maybe you've been at it for 5, 10 years and you have a team, but there are good days and there are bad days. And you're like, how can I have more good days? So that's what we're going to talk today about. Here's my goal for you guys. And I'll tell you in a minute who I am very briefly because I don't like these webinars to be about the speaker, but I am a certified coach, which means that I have been trained to deeply understand human behavior. And together with my experience as a doctor, I have put the two and two together so that I can help women doctors practice with less stress and have better teams and ultimately have better quality of life. So the goal for today's class is for you to have a deeper understanding of the small team management, okay? Because one of somebody just wrote in and said that there is advice on how to run teams, but bigger teams, right? There's not a ton of advice on how do you run a smaller team, like under 10 people. And there are nuances to it that I'm going to teach you today. Okay. So you're going to walk away with a deeper understanding. I go deep. I'm the kind of person who goes into the core, into the etiology, right? The actual understanding of the problem, because that's the only true way to solve it. And then I'm also going to give you some very practical tools that you can walk away today with that will help you have a better office culture. All right, 2 seconds about me. I'm a doctor, just like all of you guys. My name is Dr. Jana Konovalenko. I am a board certified orthodontist. I have been a dentist since 2009. I don't even know how many years, 16 years, 15. And I have been an orthodontist since 2016, 9 years. And I have been a coach since 2018. So I was foreign trained in the Ukraine, then I got recertified in the United States, went through the whole uh, system to become an orthodontist here. I got board certified, and at the same time as I was working as an associate, I experienced just the stress of being in the mill, right, in a busy practice, and being a woman with a male boss and not getting the respect that I wanted from the staff, not being able to manage them really well. So I went through all of this. That's how I found coaching. And that really helped me cut down on my stress, cut down on my overwhelm, help me get out of this rut. Can anybody relate to the day-to-day rut, right? It's like, oh, tomorrow's work. Oh my gosh, again, all these problems, the clean checks, the bickering, the issues, the new patients, right? And it was I not only did I come out on the other side, but I was able to start two businesses. I currently have two businesses and a job, and I have two small children, ages 2.5 and 1.5. So if you're a mom and a business owner or a doctor, I completely get you. And after I was able to help myself, I started helping other people. And so far, I've helped over 100 women dentists of all kinds of specialties. And I do this inside my mastermind that I'll tell you in a minute and through private coaching. So the things that I'm going to teach you today is not just something I came up with. I've been doing this for years, almost a decade, and I've helped countless, over 100 women dentists with that of all specialties. All right. So this is probably where you're at. You are a good doctor. You want to do quality dentistry, regardless of what your specialty is, right? And you want for your patients to have a good experience, right? You want to provide great experience and you want to make a good living, right? Like we went to dentistry because it's a good income, it's a safe income. You work hard and then you will have a good living, right? We want to provide for our families. A lot of us are breadwinners. And we have to work with the staff, right? We talked about this before. But our team doesn't always do what we need them to do. Isn't that true? Right? We want them to show up on time. They don't always do that. We want them to do their tasks. They don't always do that if we're running behind or if we have like an orthodontics same day start. We need them to work as a team. That's, by the way, the four most toxic words you can say for any culture. Be a team player because it's so vague, and I'm going to talk about that later. But we rely on the team, right? We want them to show up, do their job, have a good attitude, but they don't always do that, is it? Sometimes they do this for a little bit and then it kind of slip back. And so what do? As women, we are socialized to be caretakers. We're socialized to people please, right? So we try to be nice and we try to be friendly and, we try to connect with them and we kind of bend ourselves a little bit into a pretzel and, hoping that they will reciprocate, but they're still not performing, right? That's kind of frustrating. So then sometimes we just become like, okay, maybe I need to be more strict. Maybe I'll just need to be more like business. And then staff really starts hating us. Right? And sometimes they quit, or maybe they will start complaining to the boss if you're an associate, or they show up because they need the money, but they just have this sour face. So if this is something you're experiencing, this class is definitely for you. So this is the problem. I call it here, right? This is the problem. We just want to show up, do good work, have happy people, get paid, and get out. Either an associate or a practice owner, right? But we have to rely on the staff, and they don't always do what we need them to do. So what can we do? Here's what I want you to do. Here's how I think and how I help my clients. You want to get very clear on what you're trying to achieve. So what exactly is the objective? Think about it. For those of you who are specialists, right? They taught us in general dentistry too, but I feel like especially in specialty, kind of outside of orthodontics, because I feel like orthodontics is like a totally different language. But in every other specialty, when you go to a specialist, they kind of go down to the basics, right? That's how they figure out the solution. They like really zoom in and they don't do like the patchwork. They really go and trying to see exactly what is happening. Think of it as somebody who has a failing root canal, or let's say there is a broken instrument in the root canal. You will refer them to an endodontist, to a specialist. What is a specialist going to do differently from you? They need to see that broken instrument, right? So they're going to use a microscope. The only way to get that instrument out is they have to see. You don't have a microscope, they do. Right? So that you need access. You need to really zoom in and see exactly what the problem is. So that's what I'm going to do with you guys here, how I want you to think about issues with your staff. What exactly is the problem? So our objective, what we want them to do is we want them to perform tasks, right? Or if you really break it down, we need them to perform certain tasks, part of their job, right? And we also want them to do these tasks in the way that are close to the way we want it done. Isn't that true? Yeah? We are all a little bit control enthusiasts and we feel the responsibility for the outcomes of the treatment. And so we need our team, especially our clinical team, to do what we tell them to do. Yeah, otherwise we cannot get the result that we want for the patient. So we need them to perform tasks. We need them to do those tasks in a way we want it done or close to it. And we need them, the staff, to have a good attitude. If we have these three things, there's no team drama, there's no issues with the staff, we have smooth days. Isn't that true? All right. So then this is our objective. Let's break it down even more. So we want them to perform tasks. How can you make sure that your assistant performs the exact tasks the way you want her to do it? A, she needs to have experience, or she doesn't have to have experience, but you gotta train her or him, usually her. Yeah? So, okay, yes, we need to train them. Then they're gonna do things that we need them to do. Next one was in the way or close to the way you want it done, right? You want wire changes a certain way, a certain speed. You gotta train them again, right? That's not news. You've heard that, but I really want you to slow down and think, how can I make sure that my assistant is doing exactly what I need her to do in the way I need her to do? You gotta train her. You gotta show her how to do it. You gotta spend time with her and then keep her accountable. We're gonna talk about it in a minute. But every time you get frustrated that your assistant is not doing what she needs to do, ask yourself, have I spent enough time? And maybe you have, and I'll tell you what to do. But often there's so much assumption going on. I get this question asked all the time, right? I've already shown her, but she's still not doing it. When I bring together, I rarely do this, but when I bring together the doctor and an assistant, I promise you every single time there are assumptions happening. She thought you wanted her to do something this way, and you thought that was common sense, and she got it that she needed to do it this way. It happens every single time. I want you to have zero assumptions. Just come in with like empty brain. You just graduated. You don't know anything. You have to over communicate. You have to really break things down for people. Okay. So how do we train? I know it may sound simple, but let's break it down again, like specialists do, right? How did you learn dentistry? Remember, first we read books, right? They gave us lectures. We had to read the theory. Then we went to the sim lab, right? When we practiced on plastic teeth. And then we went on humans. It's kind of the same way for your staff. Even if they come with experience, if you are an experienced doctor, you know that assistants or staff that has experience is not always great because they can come in with the habits that you don't want them to have, right? So it's kind of like sometimes they say, don't hire for experience, hire for attitude and train the way you want it. So there are pluses and minuses, but I always like to assume and kind of talk to my staff, assuming like they don't know anything. And I would even apologize, like, listen, I apologize if it's very primitive, but I just want to make sure that we're completely on the same page and they will appreciate your investment of time in them. So for your staff, it's the same way, right? Like you're not going to give them books, but you have to write down exactly what you need them to do. I always tell my clients is people can read your mind if you put it down on a piece of paper. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say that. For this class, unless you guys are driving or you're like in the shower or cooking or something like that, you guys are here, you've invested your time to be here. I want you to engage with this material that I'm teaching you, okay? Don't just passively consume and be entertained. Maybe I'm lovely, I have nice hair, but take notes, make whatever you have, like aha moments, or you have questions that you want to ask me, write this down, engage with this material, decide what you're going to implement tomorrow on Monday if you work Mondays, okay? The only way for you to create true change in your practice is if you actually implement what I'm telling you, right? If you actually go and start trying things. Don't make this another lecture that you listened and you thought that was interesting. You thought, okay, that was a good point, and then you close it and you never go back to it. Okay? This is not the way to create a strong team. And if you are in this drama cycle with your staff, just consuming passive information is not going to help you get out of it. Okay. So even though these things may seem simple, write it down. You're here, take notes, get a piece of paper and a pen or on your phone, whatever you are, and write these things down. Okay, am I actually writing down detail in a detailed manner whatever I need my assistants to do? Like literally checklists. Okay, then you have to show it to them, and then you have to provide feedback. So write it down, discuss with them, sit down, show how you want wires done, or show how you want your tray set up, show them how you want assisting or certain things done, right? And then you gotta provide ongoing feedback. And that's for both, for brand new assistants or somebody maybe you've worked before. You're like, okay, you know what? Makeover 2025. I want to do things a little bit differently. I want us to be on the same page. I want everybody to get out of the house, get out of the office on time if you're running behind, set the stage a little bit. You got to start providing them more feedback. How do you provide feedback? Monthly meetings is where you teach something new, and then daily huddles is where you reinforce what you taught them. My recommendation is that you don't teach your staff new things during morning huddles. This is just too much. It's too overwhelming. Everybody just wants to get through the day. It's stressful. And then you're trying to show them how you want to do something, you want to have something done differently. In my experience, it's not going to stick, it's not going to land. So if you are an associate, talk to your boss to have these monthly trainings, meetings. And trainings are not just for physical skills, manual skills, you know what I mean? Like clinical skills, that's the word. But it's also for the customer service skills, aka attitude, right? You can have meetings for that too because it's very important. So have these monthly meetings. Then we have daily huddles. Some doctors are so frustrated with their staff, they don't even show up to daily huddles. I hope you're not that doctor, and if you are, talk to me. We have to have these points of contacts. Otherwise, we are going to lose our staff. There's going to be so much disconnect and so much resentment that it's going to be really hard to recover from. Okay. And then you want to meet with your team weekly one-on-one. Okay. And I know for some of you, it could be like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Everything is just such a mess. Like, I don't even have the time for the inventory. Like, I am losing new patients. Okay. Okay. You're here. We can start organizing your office, your operations, the way things are run so that you can have time one-on-one, especially with assistants that need more training, so that you can be there for them every step of the way. Okay. And how I said, write it down, helpful checklists, templates, right? Like daily priority um, sheets. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute too, but you gotta help people help you. I love that phrase, right? Like you gotta help them. We make so many assumptions. I'm the first one to be guilty of this, right? I was like, well, I don't want to be micromanaging them. I don't want them to feel like I'm hovering over them. Micromanaging happens when there's lack of clarity. Okay. When you are not clear, and here's a word of caution, what you think is clear is probably not clear for her, for your assistant. So you want to over communicate things, like really break it down for her and follow up to make sure that she got it, and then follow up to see if she has any follow up questions. When you do this, when you invest in your team this way, you are going to have a very strong team. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Let me move this. All right, so this was the first part, right? We are going to have excellent, strong team if they know what they need to do and which tasks to perform, and they do them the way we want them done. You do this through writing down very clear what you want, expectations from your team, as an associate. I can't speak this morning. I used to do the same thing for my team, especially as a practice owner, especially if you're a new practice owner, right? Like you're starting, it's a fresh start with your team, start on a good note, okay? So one part is the clinical expectations from your staff. Another part is the attitude. And that's typically where we get in the weeds. But we're going to talk about this. All right. So when we talk about our staff having good attitude, typically we're thinking about these four categories. Good attitude towards their job, right? Showing up with a smile and, if there's anything extra, they're happy to do this. They're not sour faced about this. Good attitude towards each other, right? And we have multiple personalities. Like some people just don't get along, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together, right? You want them to be able to be cordial and and for them to be professional with each other. That's what we're talking about. Good attitude towards you, right? So that they don't take your suggestions negatively or don't get offended or hurt or anything like that, right? And then lastly, good attitude towards patients. I feel like this is typically not a problem. Typically, our staff has fairly good bedside manners, but the first three is where we sometimes get in trouble. All right. So how can you can help somebody have a good attitude? So we already talked about how you can help somebody do the work you want them to do in the way you want them to do. You gotta train them. You gotta invest time, right? You have to teach them, then you have to sit down with them, then you have to follow up with them. What about attitude? Can you teach someone to have a good attitude? Attitude comes from their perception of the world. I really want you to think about it. Your attitude, my attitude, our assistant's attitude is not the world. It's their perception. You with me? It's their thoughts about you. It's their thoughts about this job. It's their thoughts about the patient load. Same thing for you, by the way. When you look at the schedule and you have 80 patients, you don't have a busy day. You have a day with 80 patients. Because for a general dentist, a day with 80 patients is insane. For many orthodontists, or for some orthodontists, 80-day patient is like a moderately busy day. I used to work for a practice where I saw 150 patients a day. So 80 for me is like, it's a good day, right? Subjective perception. It's how we perceive. I really want you to pause and process this because both as associate and as practice owners, we feel this pressure to motivate our staff. We feel this pressure of being a good leader, being a great leader. How can I make everybody happy? How can I make sure everybody has good attitude? It must be me. I'm not saying something that will change their attitude. I'm not motivating them enough. I'm not, whatever I'm saying in the morning huddle doesn't land. I want you to remember that it's not just what you're saying, it's how they're hearing it. Are you with me? So, when you want somebody to smile and feel motivated, what you are trying to accomplish here is you're trying to change their perception of their job, their life, their salary, their you. Can you change someone's perception? Think about it. Can you change your perception? I speak to so many associates and practice owners too who are so burned out. They can't even change their own perception of this job. They're just so sad that what they see is the reality. I'm being taken advantage of. This is so stressful. I hate Invisalign. I hate surgeries. I hate root canals, right? And now they're asking to do this from another person. I'm not saying this is impossible, but I want you to keep that in mind as this is the task that we're trying to accomplish here. So can you change someone's perception? Yes, you can. And there's two ways how. One, they need to want to change it. And two, you have to have leverage in order for them to change their perception. What do I mean by that? They want to change it if you have an assistant who is unmotivated and kind of cranky and maybe doesn't get along. And a lot of the times, those are the strong ones. And we don't want to get rid of them because they're good clinically, but they kind of have attitude. They kind of don't get along with other people. But if they understand that this is what's going on, if you can get to the point where there's an opening in them and they're like, okay, doc, I see it. I'm very direct. This is just who I am. I'm just like, lay it out on me and let's go. But I understand that's not the culture in the practice. Quite frankly, it can have something to do with your background, right? Like I'm from the Ukraine or from Eastern Europe. We are very direct. My husband is from here, from California. Whenever we have to negotiate with the nanny agency or something or somebody, he always tells me not to do this, that he will handle it. Because the way I handle any negotiations is in a very direct way, and it's not the culture in the United States, right? The culture in the United States is more indirect and soft and kind of like a little bit going around the bush, and it's just not. I'm learning to do this, but that's not my first instinct because that's not how I grew up. And some people, like we had an assistant in my practice who was born and raised here, but she just grew up in the environment where everybody were more direct. That's her personality. And that other people were perceiving it, see the word, the P word, perception. Other staff members were perceiving it as rude. She was not trying to be rude. She was just being herself. She was just being direct. That's where you come in as a leader and you need to understand these nuances. Okay. So in that case, with that assistant that I just told you, who was very direct, me and her had a chat, and she just understood. She was like, "Okay, doc, I see it. It's like I'm not trying to be rude, but I see that I'm coming off more direct." So she wanted to change, and if the person wants to change, the way for you to help them change is you gotta invest time into building a relationship with this person, especially if you're an associate. I'm going to talk about leverage in a minute. Leverage is something that owners have. You, as an associate, you don't have a lot of leverage. You have some, but you don't have a lot, meaning you can't fire or hire them. Yeah. But what you can do is you can invest time into understanding them. I'm not talking about being best friends and, going for drinks. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about spending some time where you really dig into understanding what makes them tick. What do they care about? Are they a single mom and money is tight? They really want to pay bills. Are they, in their early 20s living, let me mute Swati real quick. Living with parents and you kind of want to prove them and yourself that you're an adult and you can have a salary. Or maybe you are just fed up with your current work at Target and you just want to try something new. Like you have to a little bit understand that person where they're at and what they're after, like what they really want in life, what's really important for them. Somebody who is for whom money is really important is going to be more willing to change their attitude to keep this job. Somebody who has a husband that is a breadwinner is not going to be as invested in this job, right? So this is where you want to, I call this in the mastermind, I call it like the 3-3-3 method, where you invest 2 to 3 minutes per day per team member to go a little bit deeper than, hi, how was your weekend? You look nice type stuff. Okay. So that's how you change someone's perspective if you don't have leverage, if you're an associate. Or sometimes, even as a practice owner, I've coached practice owners who said, I, by no means, I just don't want to fire anybody. I don't want to hire, I don't want to go through this. I'm like, okay, great. Now we got to invest some time into these people. Or point number 2 is you have leverage, right? Meaning your practice owner, you have a leverage of hiring or firing them. I'm not suggesting going and firing everybody who, shows up late, but the leverage that you have is in creating those very clear job descriptions and expectations. And expectations include behavior and attitude. Okay. The 90-day performance review that I give my clients includes like 3 part of it is non-clinical. Is the interaction with the team, expectations for the interaction with the team, for the interaction with the patients, with the boss, and things like that. These things need to be outlined. A lot of us think it's common sense, right? Be professional. But the definition of professional is very different for different people. Have you noticed? So that's where we're getting in trouble. So let's go back to our objectives. Remember, just let's tie it all in. We want them to perform tasks in the way we want them done, those tasks, and we want them to have a good attitude, right? That was our objective. So the solution is have very clear expectations that are written down and then communicated continuously, right? I had one mentor who said, you have to tell an assistant 20 times what to do until she will start doing it. It's like 20 times. She's like, I'm not joking. So now I'm like, okay, 20 rule, the rule of 20, right? So clear expectations, you gotta train them. You gotta invest time to get people good so they can be good for you, okay? And then you need to understand human behavior, what we just talked about the perception and the type of leverage that you have. Okay, I put these three things in what I call the three steps of the team excellence code. Okay, this is more for my practice owners, especially if you're a brand new practice owner or you've been at it for a while. You're like, I don't know, I gotta revamp things. These are the three steps that I'm teaching. Step number one is you have to hire for the best fit. If you're still in the process where you're hiring people, or maybe you have a couple of bad apples and you're holding on to them, that's where you want to really assess whether it's worth it holding on to them or whether we could let them go and start, hire somebody new. But you got to know how to hire well. And I teach this, it's called the VIP process, where you really take into account your practice's values, the purpose, like you going from the within so that you don't just hire somebody who showed up on time and, looked like she put a little bit of effort into how she looks. But you have to go deeper into understanding, is this person is going to be a good fit? And maybe sometimes it's a no, but you need a body in the front desk. And you're like, I understand that probably this is not going to last for a long time, and that's okay. I'm making a conscious decision. Okay. So you gotta hire really well. And if you're an associate where the boss involves you in the hiring decisions, amazing. Okay. That was one of my situations where the boss was like, I helped him grow a practice from 3 million to 21 million in 3 years. So he put me kind of like on the board to help with all these decisions, and you can participate in that way as well. So hire people well who are a good fit for your practice. Have very clear expectations. Even if you're an associate, you can still take what's the word? Um, Not responsibility, but what am I trying to say? Like you can still create job not necessarily job descriptions but expectations and like checklists. Like that's how I want things done with Dr. K. Your staff is only going to be thankful because you're making their job easier. Okay, and then the last piece is holding them accountable, and that's where I see a lot of people uh struggle with, right? Because expectations, that's where practice consultant can help us, or that's what you can do on your own. But holding people accountable, how do we hold people accountable? And that's where you have to have the one-on-one meetings, you have to have monthly meetings, you have to have morning huddles, but it's not just the container. It's your ability to have that difficult conversation. And I'll tell you in a minute how you want to approach these conversations and what kind of emotional state you want to be and the kind of questions you ask them. But you just go through these three steps. And I'll answer questions at the end where people try to hold their staff accountable and they get better and then they get worse. And what are you going to do in this situation? I'm going to talk to that in a minute as well. Okay. Now, remember how I told you that it's very important the emotional state you're in as the doctor when you are holding people accountable, when you're having these conversations. Your attitude as a doctor towards your staff is actually very, very important, right? Because it will determine the way the conversation goes. And often when we are starting at a practice, we start with this open, excited attitude. We're warm. We think that we want everybody to like us, and we think that we're just going to hold hands and we're going to all retire together and just walk into the sunset. And then a couple of years later, things are not working as well. We're like, something has gone wrong. I don't want to be the office that fires. So you try to be nice and bend yourself backwards and people please. And, as women, we want to feel accepted and we want to feel liked. But as we do nice things and we go out of our way, the staff doesn't reciprocate, right? We think that, oh, if I am nice, then she's going to be nice. She's going to work as a team. She's going to, do her part and then she doesn't, the assistant doesn't. And that's where we start making up these stories in our head for their facial expressions or, the vibe in the office, which is all our interpretation and perception that doesn't help because that only leads to frustration, that leads to resentment. We feel hurt, we feel tired of this. Sometimes we even feel trapped. We start judging them, and then eventually we're burning out. So, your attitude as the boss, even as an associate, you're still the leader, plays crucial role in how well these interactions go. And this is the one state that I recommend that all of you practice being every time you go to work. Okay? That state, that emotional state is curiosity. I don't want you to be shooting for nice and loving and accepting, and we're like, oh, kumbaya here. I want you to, especially when there are problems, and especially when you're trying to hold them accountable, something has gone wrong, and I hope you are very specific about mistakes they're making, like write them down. You have to be specific. You can't just say, oh, you were not a team player. Okay, what does that mean, right? Perception. It's too subjective. The assistant will think that you just don't like her personally. You have to be very specific. Okay, it took you 30 minutes to change the wires. I need you to change wires in 15 minutes. See, like very specific. But the state that I want you to guys be as much as you can is curiosity, genuine curiosity. We're open with our staff and we're curious. When we're in the state of curiosity, these are the top 5 phrases that are going to diffuse the most challenging situations. Be it there is conflict between the assistants happening, or there is a conflict between you and an assistant because they didn't do what you wanted them to do, or maybe the patient complained that they didn't do what I just had the situation where the assistant forgot to put the x-ray shield on the patient and mom was very upset, right? Like, and that's my consult, of course. So navigating situations like that, when you're in a state of curiosity, here's the top 5 questions that always diffuse tension for me and my clients. First is something happens. Instead of just stewing, saying nothing, and running to your office, I want you to come to an assistant and say, oh, tell me more. Tell me more. What happened? Tell me more. Open, curious, genuinely curious. Not like, tell me more. Tell me more. What's going on? The question why. So often we don't ask this question. I had a situation with a client who, do you guys wear the headsets? Do your assistants wear headsets? In their practice, they wear these headsets, but half of the assistants wear them, half of them don't. And it's important for them to wear so that they communicate better when it comes to notes and taking care of patients. And half of the staff wasn't wearing it, and the doctor was trying to encourage during the morning huddle for everybody to wear a headset, but they're still not wearing them. They're still not listening to her. And I asked her, did you ask them why they're not wearing them? She's like, no. Such a simple question, right? 3 letters. Why? But genuinely, from curiosity, not from resentment. When you genuinely approach your staff, either one by one or as a group, and say, hey guys, why are we not wearing headsets? Just out of curiosity. You know that they're helping us not do double notes or not to miss notes. And then ask them, why not? Why are you not doing what I'm asking you to do? I'm asking you to add the patient on the Google sheet after you've scanned them for Invisalign. I'm curious, why didn't you do that? Is there something like, is there no internet? Like, what's going on? Genuinely simple questions, you guys, will create so much rapport with your staff. They are going to open up. Remember that how to change someone's perception is if they're willing, if they want to change, these questions will help you get through your staff. And sometimes you can't get through them because they don't want to, and this is just the staff you can't work with. That's as simple as that. I don't want you to be fighting somebody who doesn't want to be in this relationship. It's like going to marriage counseling over and over and over again with a guy that just doesn't want to be married to you. It's like beating a dead horse, right? So also you kind of need to know when to pull the plug. Here's another question. Something happens, you go, you're right. What can we do here? How often do you guys ask this question? We often feel, especially as women, that I'm the doctor. I am um like the decider. I'm like the final step. I'm responsible for all these things. I have to have all the answers. And when the staff comes to us and like, ah, Dr. K, there's a problem here. We don't know how to fix it. They go, oh, what can we do? I help them tap into their own resourcefulness. My friends, when you are solving problems for your staff all the time, they will get used to not using their own brain. And then you have to constantly do this stuff for them. So let's teach them to problem solve on their own. And then the last sentence is, do you see how short they are? Like, it's not like large scripts. You don't have to memorize anything crazy. Be in genuine state of curiosity and say things like, hey, help me understand what happened here with this patient. Help me understand what happened with that assistant. I understand there's you know, there was a fight or there was some tension going on between Alyssa and Marina. Help me understand what's going on here. Do you see, like when I'm in curiosity, my tone of voice, everything is so different and it will help dissolve the tension and actually solve the problem. Whenever I use these phrases, people afterwards come and give me a hug. And they're like, Dr. K, thank you so much for this was so helpful. I feel so much better. And I used to be the doctor who was not very liked. Let me tell you something. I was very like direct and like demanding, like, let's go. And then I applied these coaching principles, and this is what happened. Okay. But this, your ability to talk to your staff this way, heavily relies on your state as a doctor, like on your emotional state, so that you can write down those clear expectations. Then you can build a very strong team. Here's what I want you guys to write down in your notebook or on the pad. I saw this at one of the conferences and I thought it was genius. I wanted to bring it to you. Mindset, right? Our, what's going on in our head, how we think, our attitude, times skill set equals output. Especially if you're a practice owner, especially if you're starting out. I want you to think about it. The output is the success of your practice, the success of your career. Same as for associates, right? Output depends on the mindset and your skill set, right? So let's say your mindset, how you feel about your job and your staff is like at a 1 out of 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. Let's say your mindset is at a 1. Your skill set as a doctor, as a practice owner, as a manager, as a leader is at a 5, right? Then your output is 10. What do we usually do? What are we told to do? You got to go and figure out more skills, right? You have to hire a practice consultant. You have to learn the systems. You have to have automation, right? Like all these things. Okay, we go and we increase our skill set. We're still feeling kind of crappy and not managing our head about our career, about our practice. We increase our skill set from 5 to 10. 1 multiplies 10. Our output is, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. This should be 5 here. Math. Are you guys strong in math? Not me. So that was 5 here, right? Now we increase our skill set 2 times, right? We went and we learned marketing and we learned leadership skills and we hired a practice consultant, right? We increased our skill set. So the success of our practice, the output is now 10. But what if we work on our head as well? We increase our mindset to 10 and our skill set, our output, boom, is 100. This is what I'm talking about. This is how I was able to go from a struggling associate to now owning 2 businesses in like 4 years, 3, 4 years. And especially for those of you who are practice owners, here's what I want you to remember. I don't think I can go back. Let me see. Yeah. So I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about is working on your head is as important, if not more important than working on your skills. We're taught that you have to go and get the strategy. You have to go and improve the skills. And that's what we're focusing on. Tell me the piece of technology. Tell me the automation. Tell me the protocols and the systems and the expectations. And all of that is important. I'm not saying that it's not. But it's your mindset, you working on your head is the missing piece when it comes to your overall success as a practice owner or as an associate. And that's why just having practice consultant or just talking to vendors creates doctors that are struggling. Like you go to all these Facebook groups and there's constantly people who are frustrated with all these issues and everybody's struggling. We're getting burned out. The suicide rate is high. Why? Because we're not working on our head. Nobody told us how to work on our head. There's like therapists, right? We can go to therapists and like talk about our problems for an hour. That doesn't really change what's going on in our head. It's just we like uh, get it off our chest, but we don't have the mental tools like a fitness, the gym for our mind to work in our head so we can be a better leader, a better doctor, a better manager, a better practice owner. This is what I'm talking about the mindset. Now, there's another thing that I really want to share with you. I saw it, one of the speakers presented, I can't remember their name. I think it was Alex Hermosi, but this was a little modified. So I can't give a credit to the person. I didn't create this, but I want you to look at this graph. Every time we start anything, let's say you're starting a practice right now, you are in this first stage. So there's an X and Y uh, axis, right? And there's on the bottom, what is it? This is an X, amount of effort and time you're putting into your practice. And on the Y, it's how you feel about it, right? The positive, negative. So we are all starting with uninformed optimism, right? We graduate, we're like, yay, so great. I'm making so much money. It's amazing, right? Or like, yay, I'm going to start a practice. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to have so much more time. I'm going to make so much more money. It's amazing, right? And then we get here, we start working and we start getting to the informed pessimism, right? Now we're like, oh my God, this is harder than I thought. This is not as fun as I thought. I don't have as much time as I thought I will have. Like, I'm working more than I did as an associate. Or, oh my God, my taxes are crazy. I am not making $250,000. I'm barely making 100K after taxes. Yeah. Or like this technology now. I'm doing the light force and I'm doing all this, digital stuff so I don't have to reposition. Oh my God, there's so much digital homework, right? Now we know better because we are doing the thing and now we're not feeling that great because it's hard, right? There's a lot of things. So we go into this informed pessimism. That's where a lot of people quit. A lot of people get here and they say, okay, I think I need to start a practice. Like this associate job is just not working. I don't have control. I don't have autonomy. I don't do things the way I want. I'm putting so much effort. I'm not getting paid. I'm jumping the ship. I am going to start my own practice. Or you've started a practice. You're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I need to hire an associate. Or I need to like quit and sell it. If you persevere, if you keep going, you will get to the point that is called the valley of despair and choice. Very strong name, right? That's where in the darkest of the dark, you're like, oh wow, this is harder than I thought. But notice how it has the word choice in it, okay? You can make a choice there, whether you will come out from this graph or you're gonna keep going, okay? This is where you're in the thick of it. That's where it's really, really hard. And if you keep going, my friend, if you do not quit, you will get to the stage of informed optimism. Like now you're like, oh, okay, it's starting to click. I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to do these systems. I see the discomfort, but it's starting to work. I'm starting to feel better. And then eventually you get to success and fulfillment. Okay. Most people quit, if not at informed pessimism, then definitely at the valley of despair and choice. But if you stick with it, you will get to success. And I kind of drew it, I apologize for my drawing with the mouth, but if you look at the shape, it's almost like a dip. Yeah. And do you guys know who Seth Godin is? He is if you know who he is, you should look him up after this presentation. He is an entrepreneur and he is business oriented. He gives a lot of advice, not for doctors or dentists, just in general about business. And he has this book called The Dip. So he's literally talking about this. If you survive the dip, is when you are going to have a successful practice, guaranteed. Now, the tough part is here. That's where having a coach helps. a lot because a coach can get you on the other side when you're so close to quitting and changing. And the problem with quitting is that you will get off the train here, right? You're like, I'm quitting my associate job. I will just start a practice. And you're going right back here. You're like, oh, it's going to be so much better, right? And then you start getting into the weeds of owning a practice. And then you go down here. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so much harder than I thought. Yeah. And then you go down here, you're like, oh, I just want to be an associate. I'm selling this. You sell it, you go back here because you forgot how hard it was as an associate. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why having somebody who is in your corner, who is reminding you where you're at, who is strategically guiding you through all the challenges is so valuable. This is why I heavily invest in my own coaching, right? It's like I'm a coach, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a coach. If I didn't have a coach, it's like a dentist without a dentist, right? And I spent a lot. Like I didn't do the math, but I think it's close to 60,000 a year, 50,000 a year. Business coaching, right? It's very important for my businesses to have that. And that's a group program too, right? Life coaching here and there. I invest. I just went to a retreat in San Diego with my coach. That was $7,000, right? Plus flights and things like that. Health coaching, my health is important to me, right? Making sure that I'm managing my weight, right? Making sure that I sleep well. And I invest at least $500 a month. So this is why I highly recommend that you think for yourself, how are you investing in your own support system as you're going through that? And this is what I do with women doctors. In what I have, this is my container that I help you guys. It's called NoStressDDS Mastermind. And what I do here is I help you with that mental fitness. There's three components. There's a mental and emotional fitness so that you can keep going through the dip, whether it's in your associate journey and you're thinking of buying a practice or you're starting a practice right now, and maybe you're also a mom or you're on the journey to become a mom. Remember that mindset multiplied skill set, that mindset piece is what I heavily coach you and teach you in the mastermind. And then I also help you build a strong team. And it's the three steps that I told you today about is you have to know how to hire well, then you have to have clear job descriptions, but the most important piece I find people struggle with is how do you actually hold them accountable? And there's a lot of coaching that has to do with how to not people please people, how to not be resentful over them, how to have the art of having difficult conversations is what I'm teaching you in the mastermind. And then the last piece, a lot of us are moms or want to be moms. And so work-life balance is very important so that you have time for your family and also for your own health. And so that emotional and mental fitness that I was telling you about, I call it think like the CEO because you are the CEO of your practice. And even if you're an associate, you are your own business. So I teach you how to handle any problem without the overwhelm, how to stay motivated, how to keep going, and how to see solutions instead of just running in the rat race. Sometimes I hear from people, it feels like I'm in this rat race. But I will help you see solutions and keep going so that you never get stuck in that valley of despair. Then, when it comes to building a team, I help you every step of the way from how to hire well. I actually have checklists and templates for you to figure out what's the most important for your practice, especially if you're starting over or starting out, or even if you've been around the block. You need to understand exactly what's the goal, what's the purpose, what's special about your practice. That's how you're going to attract the best talent. And I give you the checklist, the actual templates that you can use from the beginning, like I call it hiring made simple, how to go from the ad on the Indeed all the way to the in-person interview, because that seems to be very overwhelming for people. I teach you a very simple way how to do that so that there's like minimum involvement from you. You're literally just copy pasting things. You have a clipboard with a checklist and you can hire somebody right on the go. And if you decide that, listen, I don't want, and I have, by the way, all the job descriptions, all the daily checklist, I'll show you in a minute. Like all of this done for you is there. But if you don't want to deal with this, you want to just hire a practice consultant, you got to know how to hire somebody good because they will cost you 30, 40, 50, $100,000. And if you hire somebody who's not great, you just wasted 100 grand on someone, and I give you a checklist to interview well those consultants and hire somebody. And then I teach you how to hold somebody accountable and how to not people please and have those difficult conversations. And then lastly is the work-life balance. I teach you my signature, I call it time freedom method, where you will learn how to truly have time for everything that's important for you. If working out is important for you, we're going to find time. I will literally walk you through your schedule and I'll help you put that time in there. Not only am I going to help you create this time calendar, I'll help you stick to it because that's the main problem, right? Like we don't really maintain our boundaries. Somebody knocks and we're like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna go help you. That's gotta stop if you want to have a good work-life balance, especially if you are a mom or you're planning to be a mom. You gotta learn how to shut down your work thinking so that you can be present and home for your kiddos. And think about the mental health, the chronic diseases, everything that you can prevent when you have time off, when you spend time exercising and you spend time actually taking care of yourself. Okay, here's what you get in the mastermind. I have two tracks. If you're a practice owner, you're going to go into the practice owner track, but you can have access to both, not a problem. And you have an on-demand portal where I'm teaching you all of these concepts. It's a video library, right? Where you get instant access and you can watch all these videos. They're pretty short, they're under 10 minutes, so you can get through them quickly. And I teach you my team excellence code, how to build a strong team, time freedom method, how to have work-life balance, think like the CEO, that mental and physical fitness lab. And then all the coaching replays, I'll tell you in a minute, everything is there. Job descriptions, all the templates for everything you need in terms of training your staff. I've got you covered. You'll literally just download it, put your logo, and you can run with this. Okay. And right here, I have an example done for you, templates and scripts. If you're an associate, two things. Some associates, they want to be an associate. We want to stay as an associate. We're not thinking about buying a practice. Amazing. Then I recommend that you go through these 3 steps that I have for you, the associate power method, where I help you be a better leader as an associate. Remember, we talked about it today. You either have leverage to fire hire or you don't. In this instance, as an associate, you don't, and I'm going to help you go deeper into how you can actually build a strong team without having the power to reprimand or like take away their bonuses or something like that. Clinical confidence code. If you are newer and you struggle with your confidence, or maybe you've been around the block, but you're like, these Invisalign cases are still like, I'm still kind of struggling. I help you identify which areas clinically are your weakest and what you need to focus on learning so that you're not wasting time and money into buying all these CE courses that were kind of attend, don't really listen, take a bunch of screenshots and like never look at them. That's just a waste of your time and money, a waste of resources. You want to be very laser focus into, okay, this is where I need to improve so that I can see better case acceptance, better, higher salary, right? Or like more patients are starting because I have better finishes or whatever your specialty is. That's what I'm going to teach you with this clinical confidence code for associates. And lastly, my boss navigation system is where if your relationship with your boss is not the best and you are afraid to ask for time off or you really want to raise but you don't know how to approach that, that's what I'm going to teach you there as well. And if you're an associate who is seriously thinking about buying a practice, then you need my practice ownership readiness calculator. So I have created this amazing tool that looks into 4 different categories and spits out a number at the end, literally within like minutes, that tells you whether you're ready to buy a practice or not. If you guys were a practice owner, wouldn't you wish you had the calculator? I know. I walked a couple of people through this and they were absolutely just in awe, like, oh my God, why this nobody gave me this too. I literally invented it after coaching hundreds of people. I looked at what's most important for us as a woman specifically. Why as a woman? I'm looking at personal timing. I'm looking at your family planning. So basically here, you look at all these categories and on a scale of 1 to 5, you give a number. See, there's different numbers here. So we'll look at your financially readiness. Are you ready financially to start a practice, right? How many savings you have, how much in debt you are, credit score, emergency fund, things like that. But then personal timing, family planning. Are you planning to have children? When? less than 6 months, 6 to 12, 1 to 2. Depending on that, you will be assigned a number here. Then are you planning to move? What's your support system, right? And then we're looking at your clinical experience, the market factors, the saturation, the insurances, and all that stuff. And then you'll have a number that tells you if you're ready or not, and the actual action items of what you need to do to be ready to buy a practice. Insane. Like just this calculator itself is worth the investment of the mastermind, I've been told. And then in addition to this library, you have the support. We have weekly group coaching calls and the mastermind, I don't think I told you this, it's 6 months long container. So you have like 26 calls. You don't have to attend all of them at all. They're on demand. Whatever you need support or you want to come in, you just come in, you raise your hand, and we coach. And I help you answer any of the questions. You have support of other only women, only dentists are here. So everybody's in the same spot. And then you also have one private coaching call with me. If you have something you're like, I don't know if I'm like feel comfortable bringing it up with other people, you have a private coaching with me to do that. And you have a 24/7 support in our private Facebook group. In addition to that, every single month, I send you a success tracker for both associate and owners where I keep track on your progress, right? Depending on your goals that we're going to set during our first private session, I help you stay on track and I send you personalized videos every single month with my feedback and support. And in addition to this, in the mastermind, I'm bringing guest speakers. Every month, we have a guest speaker from legal industry. This is Trey Lawrence. He's coming next month, April 4th. He is the CEO of the legal department of the AAO. So he's like the chief lawyer for all the dentists. He represents American Association of Orthodontists, but really he's a chief lawyer for all the dentists in the United States. So I bring him as a guest speaker, totally free for you as part of the mastermind. You can ask him any legal questions. How amazing is that? We have Pedram. He's a CPA working specifically with dentists. You probably have an accountant, or if you're a new practice owner, you're probably looking for one. But it's nice to have a second opinion, right? Like sometimes people give you a tip that your accountant didn't. So Pedram is coming. Then we have Jonathan. They have a like not a practice consultant. They help you find staff. If you need staff, that's what they do. They're like a nanny agency for dental staff. And he's amazing. I've been on his podcast many times. He's a really great guy and he can give you really good tips. He has a PhD in psychology too. So he really understands human behavior and he is able to really custom pick staff for you and navigate any nitpicky situations that you might be having. So he's our guest. And then we have Dr. Campos, who is my husband, but he is also a workers' comp specialist. Because if you're a practice owner, one thing as an associate you never have to think about is workers' comp claims. And as a practice owner, especially if you're in California, because that's where the workers' comp system is the heaviest, you can have an assistant or a team member that left you a while ago, and then 6 months later you get a psych claim. And now you are basically your company's being sued for psychological damage that were caused to the assistant. And it could be very scary. Everything legal for us is scary. Every time we hear the word, oh my gosh, somebody's going to sue me, we freak out a little bit. We worked really hard for our degree. And Luke is the qualified medical examiner. So he's a medical legal expert in all of these cases. So he really understands the workers' comp system in and out. And you never really need to know about it until you do. And then it could be really nerve-wracking what to do and how, like, is it going to affect me? How much is going to cost me? So he's going to go in and break all of this down for us. So some amazing speakers in addition to what I teach you as part of the mastermind. And like I said, mastermind is 6 months long. We are starting, I'm looking at my calendar, we are starting March 18th is officially when we start, and the first call is on March 21st. Calls are on Fridays. And that your investment is $850 a month only, right? For 6 months. So $5,000 in full, if you pay in full. I specifically make it very affordable, unlike 50, $60,000 investments with practice consultants and things like that, because I want this to be accessible for more people. It is very for more women specifically. And I just want this to be something that almost like a part of everybody's curriculum at school because our mental fitness and leadership skills and work-life balance are the three most important things for women doctors that nobody really teaches you. And I just want to make sure that everybody has access to that. So if you like what you're hearing, if you'd like to work with me, I would like to have you part of this next mastermind. You can, if you're watching on the computer, you can just scan this QR code and you can join us. Or if you have any questions, you want to talk to me, you can scan this QR code on the right side and it will take you to a consultation with me where we can have a chat. And I have a bonus for you because you guys are still here and you came on a Sunday to spend time with me. So I have a deep dive 90-minute strategy session as a bonus. If you sign up for the mastermind right now on this call by scanning the QR code, the purple one on the left side, you are going to get an extra private 90-minute session with me where I'm going to help you map out the rest of your 2025, what's going on with your practice or the transition you're starting a practice. You want to have some very robust systems in place so that you don't feel like you are just like putting up the fires, but you have a really good strategy moving forward. Or as an associate, maybe you're like, I actually don't even know if I want to stay an associate or I want to start a practice. This is a very helpful strategy session for somebody who is completely an outside objective opinion. And I always tell you the truth. That's literally part of being a coach, right? Is somebody who will tell you the truth unbiased. So if you sign up right now for the mastermind or you schedule a consultation with me, you'll get that bonus as part of it. All right, my friends, Q&A time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at, I know it's like a long email, my name and then my name and last name, Jana at janakonovalenko.com. You have two more QR codes here to join the mastermind and have a consultation. If you have any questions, and I'm going to take a look at questions and answer them. All right. I'm only 14 minutes late. Not too bad. Let me minimize that. Okay, guys, I am going to actually, let me see if I can jump. Okay, we have extra questions. I have a lot of orthodontists. All right, let's see. Okay, Colby had to leave, not a problem. Oh, this has been so super helpful. You're so welcome, Colby. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I love that. Emma's joining. Yay, so good to have you. Okay, there is a couple of questions I had. Oh, and if you check your email, you should have, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Um, you should have an email from me. Can't wait to work with you. Can't wait to work with you either, Emma. She's an orthodontist too. I do attract a lot of orthodontists. Okay, so we have a couple of questions from people that I want to pull up and answer. Even if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in there. Okay, so let's go. How do you manage multiple personalities in the office to minimize workplace drama? How to help change the perspective of a city. Okay. How to manage multiple this is the first question. How to manage multiple personalities in the office to minimize workplace drama. Okay, such a good question. So that goes back to what we talked about, what causes drama, right? So they have different personalities. And some practice consultants, they recommend that you do the DISC assessment. Have you guys heard of it? DISC, right? Okay, well, it kind of tells you about different personalities, but it still doesn't help understand how to deal with them. And so you have to deal with them individually. Dear doctor who's asking this question, you have to spend the time, invest that time. Remember that 3-3-3 method when you invest 2 to 3 minutes per day to connect with each person and really understand what makes them tick and why they're here and what's important for them, right? And if you can get through to people, that's when you can better understand and you will develop that trust and rapport with them. And then out of respect to you, oftentimes they will get along with each other better. But keep in mind that it's their perceptions, their choice of how they are viewing other people, right? We can't like force them to get along with others, especially as an associate. We can't enforce it. Remember, leverage as a practice owner. Excuse me. You can, and as an associate, you can just talk to your boss about this, but it could be an expectation, a behavioral expectations from the team that whatever they're doing to not do. Like, for example, let's say you have an assistant who, I don't know, doesn't say good morning or doesn't say thank you or doesn't say please, like, right? Things like that. And that annoys other people and that creates tension and creates drama. That could be one of the expectations. Listen, we say hello and please and thank you. I know it sounds rudimentary, but remember how I told you guys over communicate? Common sense is not common. Okay. All right. Another question is how to help change the perspective of assistants who only want to do the bare minimum, i.e., get annoyed when more work is put on their plate or they're asked to help another assistants with something. Okay. Similar question, right? How do you change their perspective? Perspective is their opinion of the world. How can you change their thoughts? You can try to influence them by understanding them better, but making them feel safe and heard. In order to do that, you have to invest time into mini chats with them. And mini chats not about the weather, but where you show that you actually care about them and you want them to succeed. You want to understand what makes them tick. And when you do, that's when they're more likely to open up to you and you can start once you don't even have to then tell them like, hey, I need you to do this and the other. It will be just a natural progression when you have a better relationship. But some people are not going to be willing to open up and establish rapport. It's just like with coaching, right? Some people really need coaching, but they don't want to do this work, right? They don't want to invest in their brain. They don't want to work on these skills. And I can't help them. Even though they really, really need my help, you just can't help some people, right? And what are the keys to keeping motivation high when there's not enough staff? This is a really good question, right? Motivation is how they feel about the day. Why would they be excited even if they're short staffed? Is there a very strong team? Do they have very good relationship with each other? A lot of the time, if the team is not cohesive, and we talked about how to make this cohesive, they're just not gonna want to be like rah 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 and go together with the flow, especially when they're short staffed. It's like really hard for everyone, but specifically when somebody is kind of blah about the job and you don't know what lever to pull on them. Like you don't know that, let's say she's a single mom and she really needs money because she wants to buy this dress for her daughter for Christmas, right? If you know that, then you can approach the conversation differently. Okay, if we see more patients today, we're going to get a bonus so that you can get, Emma, that dress that you wanted, right? Like personally addressing this to them. But if you don't know them, you can't really pull any levers on them. And as a practice owner, you have that leverage over, okay, guys, we have to have high spirits today. We have to be professional. And if somebody's not, that's when you have one-on-ones with them. And if they're not improving, sometimes you have to let people go. It is what it is. And we got to work on our mindset as practice owners because a lot of the time we have this idea of, oh, you know what, I wish I could retire. Like if I'm letting people go, it means I'm a bad boss. None of that. It's just all attitude that's not serving you at all. All right. I have another question. The question is how to hold my team members accountable. I have one in particular who has so much potential, but once she's reprimanded and is great for a few weeks and then slips back into old habits. I tried a 90-day probation and she made great strides, so I kept her on board. And once again, she's slipping back. I don't have a system for holding employees accountable, and most of the online content I find is geared towards larger companies, not a 10, 12 person office. Okay. So you're saying that she has so much potential, but every time you have a conversation, right? Every time you hold her accountable, you have a one-on-one, or you have a meeting, or you're training her, she does well, and then she slips back. Okay. Have you heard this expression? Do not marry for potential. We do this with men often. Oh, he's in law school. He's going to be a lawyer. He's going to make so much money. I can be with the kids, right? Or like, I've seen him be so kind. He has the potential. You guys, we can't jump into this or get locked into this trap of potential. And a lot of the time we latch on to the staff that is inconsistent in their behavior. This is what's happening, right? She's inconsistent. She gets better and then she gets worse. She gets better and then she gets worse. And a lot of the time we latch on to this inconsistent pattern because we don't want to look for somebody new. We don't want to go through the whole hiring process. But if somebody's unable to consistently maintain their behavior, they are not a good fit to work with. Think about it as, let's say we had a partner, we had a husband who is like good, good, good for 90 days and then he cheats. And then he's like apologizes and he's like good again for 90 days and then he cheats. Like he slips back. Would you be with this husband? I don't know. Some women maybe, yes. A lot of people won't. It's the same for our staff. If you're having discussions with her, if you're having weekly or monthly meetings and you're setting very direct expectations where you say, hey, assistant or employee, I need you to consistently do XYZ. I've seen that you've been doing great for 3 months, but now you're slipping away. I need you to consistently maintain it. I'm going to meet with you again in a month. And then you keep meeting with her. And if her behavior is not consistent, then you're going to have a discussion that, okay, this is going to be your final warning. The good news in the mastermind, I give you guys an exact script of how to have these conversations. I can actually show it to you. And how to write somebody off and how to hire somebody very easily, because this is why we keep some of our team for so long, because we just don't want to go through the hassle and headache of hiring. But sometimes you have to. And by the way, often we're losing a lot of money by having these team members that are not improving, are not changing. Let me show you guys this really quickly. So in the mastermind, you get access to this portal. This is for practice owners. And under, where do I have it? I have it under Team Excellence Code. Let me look at this. Why isn't it showing? I think it's under the Team Excellence Code. Okay. I literally have steps for holding somebody accountable. What do you do first? Like you have a private conversation. You set clear expectations, right? The follow-up email, you give them 2-3 weeks to improve. The second step, right? And see they're like in color from yellow, orange to red. Then there's more formal, then more formal. There are the key points that you can or cannot do as a practice owner, and then the legal tools as employer, like what is legal to do, what it's not like dock and pay is not legal, for example, for most states. And the timeline too, right? Like in how many days do you do written warning? How do you terminate them? Things like that. And I even give you a simple script, because if you are working through people-pleasing tendencies and being a nice boss, it's a process, right? It takes some time for your brain to unlearn the way you're talking to your employees right now. And so I actually give you examples of how to approach an employee if she's underperforming and she starts slipping. What would you say? How would you write an email and things like that? So this is all definitely part of the mastermind. And then in that 90-day performance review, remember, guys, I talked to you about that professional conduct, right? And patient care, like compassion, patient communication, like all of these things have to be requirements, not just this clinical skills, right? It has to be one of the leverage that you have as a practice owner. And then where do I have my hiring made simple? There we go. And then I've created the 4-step process to make it so simple for you guys to go from an ad to an in-person interview. If we decide that, okay, this person like is just underperforming consistently, she just cannot maintain performance, we have to let her go. You punch in what's important for your practice, and then I literally give you a script to put in the ad, and then I tell you how to have like a message back to filter people. So you just literally copy paste this, and that like funnels fewer people actually respond, so you get quality applicants for this position. Then you do a video chat with them before you invest into an in-person interview. And then I literally tell you what you're looking for. Here, there's a checklist for how you're assessing the applicant, and then the questions to ask, and then the red flags to look out for. And then when there's an in-person interview, finally, you just print this checklist and you go by, arrival time, professional appearance, front desk, and all that stuff. And you just go check, 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 final notes, and then you know at the end whether you should hire this person or not. Okay? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But the point is, if she's inconsistent, and you've set the expectation that, hey, there needs to be consistency, maybe it's time to let her go, find somebody new. All right, and then I have another question. How do you get leopards to change their spots? I love that. Team members who have been an assistant for many years will change. By the way, guys, I know I'm going over time because I'm answering questions. If you have to hop off, you're more than welcome. There's going to be a replay. Okay, team members who have been an assistant for many years will change for a few days when you want them to make some changes, but then they always go back to their old ways. Thank you for asking this question. Very similar to the first person. And I think I already answered that. You have to set these very specific expectations, and part of the expectations is consistency, right? They have to consistently maintain that. Now, if you're a practice owner, you do have the power to let them go or have them resign. If you're an associate, you're in a trickier spot, right? Because you can't directly fire or hire them, but I can help you talk to your boss, create a pitch where you make it so compelling where the boss may consider letting this person go. You just have to present um, the numbers, right? The boss is interested about the numbers. They're just interested about the practice producing and having good Google reviews. And so if you can show how the practice is losing money uh, from having this assistant or front desk, whatever employee, then you have a compelling case to make in front of the boss for considering letting them go and hiring somebody new. That's the power that you have as an associate. All right, my sweet friends, let me double check. Hold on, something just jumped at me here. Let me make sure I answered all the questions. Okay, associate and also startup owner. We have had constant issues with one staff member questions me in front of patients. Oh, yeah. Gives attitude when giving direction in the clinic. She has had issues with everyone in the office, but my bosses have not fired her. Yep, I've been there. Sometimes we seem on great terms, friendly, but most recently this week, she started just calling me by my last name. Interesting. No, doctor. I've had people call me Miss. I don't know where this came from. I am the associate, so not sure how to gain respect. Share that this is not appropriate and try to prevent this future behavior. Tough being an associate in this position. Yeah, totally, Brittany. I absolutely feel you. So you said that you're also a startup owner. Okay, here's a couple of things that I would recommend. First of all, it's not you, right? Do you see that she has issues with everybody in the office? And it seems like she's kind of hot and cold, right? Like sometimes she's good, sometimes she's not great. Honestly, a lot of the time there could be something mental going on with these people. I've coached clients who had these issues with the staff or the patients, and then later they've learned that there's zero stigma. I'm just saying that the assistant had bipolar that wasn't treated, or there was like depression going on. Like sometimes people have something going on with them, and like, how can you reason with this? How can you change someone's chemical imbalance that is reflected in their behavior? Okay. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind. Number two is, so you're the associate, but also a startup owner. Are you thinking of switching, like leaving the job? Or are you keeping it for now as you're growing your practice? This is what I'm interested to hear. Here's what I would say. Listen, if she start calling you by your last name, you can just pull her to the side. You just stay for a bit. Yeah. That makes sense. That's very smart, by the way, Brittany. Couple of things. You can pull her to the side and say, "Hey, assistant, I've seen you call me by my last name. Please call me by the doctor. This is unprofessional." Like you can make a request. Keep in mind, it's a request, right? You can't force her to do anything. And if you go to the boss is just going to think you're pity and you're like, oh, whatever, what a big deal, right? So the best thing you can do here, honestly, is to work on your own mindset. Why am I at this associate position? Because I need the cash while I'm growing my practice. Amazing. I do this thing in the associate track. Remember that the associate power method is I help you like decide these are the three things I want from this associate position, right? And keep your eyes on the price. Listen, I'm here because I need the paycheck. Maybe I need, I don't know, experience and something else, right? And then every day you go in, you will not let this assistant affect you because you're like, listen, I know why I'm here. This is my goal. This is where I'm at. I'm working on my head. I'm gonna get in, get out, and then you will start paying less attention to what she says. You see what I mean? Like it's not gonna bother you as much because you know why you're there. That's why I'm talking about the mental fitness is so important and our emotional health is so important, so that we can get through the day. We can get. I think you're an orthodontist. You can get good amount of starts. You can get your money, you can get your experience, you can get in, get out, and genuinely not let that uh, assistant affect you because that's where we're there. That's the name of the game. Okay. All right. Um, yeah, yeah, totally. I'm so glad Brittany says amazing perspective shift. Perspective. You guys, literally everything. Tony, do you guys know who Tony Robbins is? He's like the father of life coaching. He always says that psychology is 80% of success and strategy is 20. The whole world is after strategy. It's like that mindset and skill set. Remember I told you about? Strategy is important for sure, but it's only 20%, y'all. I even showed it as a 50 in my presentation. He says that it's 20. Mindset is everything. Okay. All right. And then we have Rita texted me. How do you handle staff members who always call out last minute due to medical emergencies? Such a good question. You got to set an expectation that this is not okay. Like you cannot call out and I'm sure they're gonna say yes, but it's real and it's a medical. You're like, okay. Remember one of those questions where how can we handle this? You can sit them down and say, okay, how can we handle this? Like I need you in the practice. And when you call out, we cannot see the patients. We have to reschedule. Everybody's getting burned out. So if I don't make money, I can't pay you. Do you understand that? And there's going to be people who are like, not my problem. They're not your people, Rita. They're not your people. You need to let them go or create a situation where they leave and you just hire somebody who is more aligned with your practice, who is a much better fit. What we do is we as women, we get trapped into these situations where we feel bad for the assistant or the staff member, or we feel like, oh, it's valid, but I also don't know how to negotiate between the two. But that's where you need to be thinking more like a CEO. You have to have your goals for your practice more clear so that it's easier for you to execute on them. See what I'm saying? Like in this situation, literally you can make a requirement, job requirement is you cannot call in more than, I don't know, twice a month. And if they're calling in more, well, maybe they're not physically fit for this job. If they have so many medical issues, or maybe they have little kids that are constantly sick, totally fair. We're not discriminating at all. But part of this job is that you show up and you show up on time. You might be, dear assistant, in the place of life where you can't do that right now. And I love you so much, and you're not a good fit. These are the kind of tough conversations that you have to have with people. Okay? All right, my friends. I don't think there are any more questions. Thank you for hanging here with me. Some of you who stay at the very end, I hope you will join the mastermind. We're starting in literally a week. When you join today, you're going to get access to all of the library and all of the resources. And if you join today, you will have a one-on-one private session with me, 90-minute deep dive strategy session so that I can dive in deeper into your specific situation and help you map out a strategy for this year to make sure that you finish strong, not only financially, but also emotionally, because it's so important for our mental health. All right, my friends, thank you for being here. Love you all. Bye.